Welcome to Kotlin Hub Pro Tutorials. In this tutorial, we'll talk about identifier, value identifier, variable identifier, and different types of data. So let's get on with it, and we will do a sample program example to clarify what exactly and how you can use an IDE and how you can use it. Now, the first thing is, what is identifier? It's a user-defined name of a program element that you can use to hold data. You have two choices: whether you allow your identifier to hold data and update its content during the program execution, or you don't want that variable to change its value anyway. Like, for example, a pi value, you can't modify a pi value at all. So you can use value identifier. Either way, you can use variable identifier. We'll get into a little bit more detail when we write a program. So now the question comes in mind, how we can do it. So we have two types of identifiers named as variable identifier and value identifier. First one is, what is var identifier? Var is a short name of variable, which means you can reassign its content. Like, you can assign new value when the program execute. You can change its content. You can like, generally you can say it's a mutable variable or a mutable identifier. So here is the default syntax of this identifier: var as a keyword, then you can use the identifier name equal to initialization, or if you don't want to initialize, then you can use by default content, but I prefer to initialize to some value so that identifier doesn't pick the by default value from the memory. Okay, so let's take an example of variable. I'll show you what exactly it will look like. So if we just saw in the slides that the syntax I'm typing in for you: identifier is equal to initialization, sorry, spell. Okay, so let's say I'm gonna type in var sample data is equal to 50. So we have identifier name, keyword, and its value. So I'm going to type in println this identifier content. So here we use the println method, and I'm going to run this function body. So it will display the output for this one. As you can see, it says size 15. So that's how you can define your variable in your program. So it will show you some sort of error or warnings during the program execution, because the compiler is very much smart enough to let you know that what you can or you can't do. So as you can see in the warning, that var is never very modified, so it can be declared using val. So val, as I told you, that val, you cannot change its content. In variable, val mean value and var mean variable. In variable, you can change its value. So let's say I'm gonna add, or you can say sample data plus is equal to 20. Okay, so now you can see, if I execute this program, you probably find out the new value of sample data, like 35. Okay, now, so this is a small example of variable identifier. So let's move on with our value identifier. Val is short form for value, which means you can initialize it, you cannot reassign it. It is immutable. Like, you can't change its content. It's the same, its syntax is the same like var. So as an example, so I'm gonna not going into detail again, so I'm just change this name as vol. Okay, now you can see this increment operators, or this line of code giving us an error, and I'm gonna hover over that error, and you can see it says vol like value cannot be reassigned. So you can't do it. Like, the best cases for vol is when you don't want to change its value throughout the program, and var if you want to change, or if there is a need of change of value to process some mathematical operation or something like that, so you can use variable identifier. And rather than it's otherwise you can use value identifier. Okay, so for this purpose I'm gonna run this program, so you'll get to know that how the errors looks like. It will give you an error. You can see build output Kotlin value cannot be reassigned. Okay, so I'm going to change it to var, and I'm going to run it again, and we will move on to the next slide. Okay, as you can see the difference between var and value identifier. So tips how you can show, or you can write the rules, you can say, for writing identifier names. So identifier starts with a letter or underscore, should be always descriptive names, like as you saw, just I write in a sample data. Okay, so if I write an underscore, it is acceptable. Okay, so you can use underscore, you can use simple words, but this name should be descriptive, so that for the later use you have an idea that what's going on with the system, or what's going on within the program. So you can use this variable is doing what. And oops, sorry, I just didn't mention underscore there. So I just run in, it'll show the output as same, just like 35 before. So as we saw, here we go, you can use this. Okay, now, so I hope you get the idea for tips. Now, let's talk about data types. The first of all, data can have different types, like Boolean, like fractional, like in programming we don't call fractional, we call double. And you can say string data, character data, and numbers, or something like that. So a type is known as a data type, like any specific type, like integer number, which tells Kotlin how do you intend to use data. For instance, 11.5 plus, like you're just adding two different numbers. One is of integer type, and the second one is double. So in this example, Kotlin knows the final result will be of double data type. So the question raised, no, we didn't specify any data type, so how the Kotlin knows the final result will be double data type. So now the answer to that question is type inference. So what is type inference? Type inference is a compiled type information, meaning some type information in the code may be omitted or to be inferred by the compiler. How the Kotlin knows about it? There are two basic types of type inference supported by Kotlin. The first one is local type inference, which means for inferring types of expression locally in the statement expression scope. Like, as you can see, I didn't mention any data type here. So the compiler knows that this one is integer data type. Okay, that's what we call local type inference. Function signature type inference, we'll get to that in detail when we talk about functions. But for definition purposes, for inferring types of function, return values and or parameters. Like as an example, we didn't mention the variable data type like integer, but as you can see in the main body, we just like define a function, sample function, which doesn't have anything like a return value or anything. Okay, sorry, I just misspelled it. So there is no return value. That's what we call function signature type inference, where we have no return value mentioned here. I'll tell you how you can mention return values or return types, sorry, not values. And this is what we call type inference. Okay, now, so here are the basic types of data like integer, boolean, string, character, and double. Okay, we'll get to that. Like say, as in the earlier slides, I told you if you don't want to reassign the value or reassign any value to a variable, just use var. Okay, so for that purpose, I'm just typing in, let's say, sample data check, and here we'll talk about boolean. Okay, true. Okay, as you can see, I just assigned a true value to a sample data check, or let's say false, because if something is if some new user is coming on your app or on your website, it should he should create an account to use your services. Okay, so I'm just typing println sample data check. Okay, so I hope you noticed one thing, that I didn't mention data type of this variable. And to that answer to that question, which means here Kotlin is inferring local type inference. Okay, so type here, I'll just adding comments, local type inference. So how we can specify data type? So as we just type in the identifier name, I need you to type colon and say boolean. So that's how you mention the data type of any variable, because you have to assume that there might be some different data type like string adding in with the with this variable, which might crash your program. So it's better to specify your data type. Okay, now this is a simple boolean data type. So sorry. So as you can see, we can't change from, we don't want to change in the later program sample data check, so we use var like value variable or identifier. So if you really want to change it, you can use to var. There's no problem with that. Okay, so I'm stick with the var. Okay, now let's talk about integer. As you know, sample integer data, and I'm gonna type in int its data type, and it should be 15. Okay, println and sample integer data, and we will run this program. So in the previous example, I showed you that the value is never changed, like never modified. So we'll do it later, but you can say 15 is just output on the console. So this is the basic integer type. So let's talk about double. Sample double data is equal to 6.6, and I'll just type in, I'll specify its data type, and I'm just println sample double data. Okay, I'm going to run it, and it will show you the output of this data. Okay, now next was string, like We are not changing sample string data is equal to string, like you can say ABC or Kotlin Hub Pro. You can type in multiple. A double quote will just print single line, but if you want to type in multiple, then you can just use triple quote, Kotlin Hub Pro, enter Kotlin Hub Pro, enter Kotlin Hub Pro, and so on. Okay, so I'm gonna remove this because I didn't mention anything. Like, okay, so now I'm gonna print ln sample string data. Okay, so it's building up, and it will show you the output here after 6.6, as you can see, showing the multiple line. Okay, so we have left character data type. I'm just typing in like variable, or you can say vol sample character data, and I'm gonna specify character is equal to any character like A, and I'm gonna print ln sample character data. So I'm gonna execute that. So here we have outputted the character data type as well. So what is data representation in Kotlin? How you represented data in Kotlin? As you can see, I specified these character double, like specify data type of a variable. That's what we call data representation in Kotlin. Okay. Now, in the next tutorial, we'll talk about functions and if expression. Till now, I hope you understand different types of data, what is variable and what is value identifier, how you can use it during the program, where you can use it, and how you can process multiple line string, single line string. That's it for this tutorial. I hope you understand the whole concept, and please like and share our YouTube channel, and we'll see you in the next tutorial. Thank you. Have a good day.